Um, Everyone, thanks for coming. Today I'm going to be talking about collage. I gave a presentation a few months ago about collage, in which I talked about its history and a few modern artists, both paper collage and digital collage. But today I'm going to focus on just paper collage and a few modern artists who practice that, some of the work that I've created, and some methods and materials that you can use to create your own paper collage. I'm going to share my screen. Can you see that? Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, so one artist whose work I like is a British artist. His name is Lewis Giles. He, I think, has beautiful Technicolor arrangements. He works, does a lot of commercial work. He's done work for the New York Times and other large corporate entities. And he includes a lot of flowers in his materials. He sources a lot of his work from 1950s fashion spreads, medical textbooks, old ads, and other strange found materials, which result in these retro futuristic collages. Like, for example, the one on the left, that's like a dinner, looks like a dinner party. I believe that was a commission for the New York Times, but I just really enjoy the color and the interesting pieces that are combined. Somewhat comical, a bit absurd, with the rabbit in the pot. If you look at the dessert, you can see flies. The one in the middle, I really enjoy, as I'm myself a photographer, and I enjoy the use of using the images or the cutouts of the gilded frames that include different types of cloud formations, including some that almost look like mushroom clouds, with a small door down below. It looks like if you walked through, you could go into another world. The chandelier at the top is interesting. It almost looks like it could be something that he created himself, made that into that formation. The image on the right, it's quite unexpected. And after a few moments of looking at it, it reminded me of that piece by Magritte, the one where his face is the surreal piece with the apple and the bowler hat. These are just a couple more of his work. He includes, like I said, a lot of flowers. And he says he sources the cutout flowers from a lot of flower and tree guides and books. On the left, this one really spoke to me. Seeing a woman sitting on a windowsill. Looks very lonely. You see mountains in the background covered in snow. The flowers are included on her right. And I think he sourced different images, photographs, and put them all together. But what struck me the most was the hash marks on the right of that image, where it looks like she's waiting. And I feel like, especially at this time, it's something that a lot of us can relate to in current times. One thing he says about his flower collages is that it's a celebration of life and the speed and fragility of our existence. We exist and it's bright, colorful, then it withers and dies and crumbles into the earth. For me, I was entering a new time, reaching the surface of water and taking a breath of air, appreciating what's around me, and embracing it. Another paper collagist whose work I enjoy is Gores. He lives in Florida, and he creates these pieces out of torn magazine imagery that, when combined, completes a whole unique image, especially that you can see when you step back. However, its meaning could change when you look a little closer. He creates these portraits on canvas. He makes a lot of work of retro-looking women. And on the right, that image appealed to me as it's a Converse sneaker. It's a very classic piece of footwear, which I enjoy. I just thought it was very clever. And I'm not quite sure, but let me see if I can just trying to point out something here. I don't know if I can, excuse me for a sec. Whoops. I was looking for the highlighter. But anyway, the red star behind the Converse star on a sneaker, it almost looks like it was pulled straight from a Macy's ad. And this is one more piece of his, which actually kind of made sense to me after I saw it. And maybe I felt like this subconsciously of Klimt being an influence of his work. The original being Klimt's The Kiss, and this piece is called Full Volume Klimt Yellow. And actually, I just found out that it was recently sold. One other artist whose work I particularly admire is Linder Sterling. She's also British. A lot of this stuff was created in the 1970s and 1980s, so it's not current, but she's still a practicing artist today. Not so much in collage, but she does other things like performance art and other, she's heavily involved in feminist activism. A few notes about her. She's from the Manchester punk and post-punk scenes in the 1970s, and her work focuses on questions of gender, commodity, and display. Her highly recognizable photo montage practice combines everyday images from domestic or fashion magazine with images from pornography or other archival material. It's cut and collaged using a scalpel and glue, which to me sounds almost like, which I know those are the materials you use, but it's almost done in a surgical sense. Her work harkens back, some of you might recognize, similar to that of Hannah Hoche during the Dada period. So those are just three artists I'm going to touch upon today. And I'm just going to start showing some of my work. I'm a photographer, but I started taking a photo collage class earlier this year at the Philadelphia Photo Art Center. So half of the class was focused on paper collage and the other half digital. So I'm just going to talk about the digital and just show some of my early stuff. Something, a practice I'm still getting into, but it's teaching me a different way to think, which I enjoy, and a different way of looking at things. So this was our first assignment, in which uncomfortable to me because I feel like I like to have control over my work, just ripping pieces of paper and having to create a landscape, not knowing what I was doing, trying to keep using color that made sense. So this was just created from magazines that we were provided with using Bristol board.
Laura,
Yeah.
we're not seeing yours. We're still seeing Linda's.
Oh, I'm sorry. Hold on a sec. If that's the case, then I can put, I can go back to my slides because I do have it there. I just wanted to make it bigger. Let me try one more time. And if you can't see it, I'll just keep it on the slides. Can you see Lightroom right now?
No, we can't.
Okay. I'll go back. Sorry about that. Okay, so yeah, I was just talking to the image on the left, trying to create a landscape using some type of intuition, using my hands, no scissors, a glue stick, and some Bristol board that had been provided to us, and just trying to create something that made sense. So it felt uncomfortable, but you know, I'm happy with how it turned out. And then the following week, we were asked to create something with the theme of recontextualization. So taking things that out of their normal environment and creating something totally different that could make you feel uncomfortable. So just kind of going with my intuition, cutting out pieces that spoke to me that I kind of liked, putting them together, rearranging them, just using materials from magazines, things I had printed out that I had just my little arsenal of papers. And there's in the back is a piece of Mylar, which I experimented with. And then I wasn't quite sure if the piece was done. And then finally, one day I went for a walk in the park and I saw that little, at the top, you can see like a sliver of a $1 bill. I picked it up and I thought that would be perfect. So I put it in and that was it. That was finishing touch for the piece. I think this began my journey, even though it's been a short journey so far, using a lot of blue and a lot of water in my collage. I feel like that speaks to me. I'm a water person, I like blue. So then moving on, this piece was created on World Collage Day this year. I don't know how long it's existed, but it seems to always be, it falls on Mother's Day, the second Sunday of May. All I knew was I wanted to create something with a lot of flowers because I always think of flowers on Mother's Day, and things just started coming together. I just cut out images like the rings. I thought they were beautiful. Next thing you know, seeing an image of a woman with red hair. Okay, she looks kind of familiar. I tried to arrange her somewhere in here that kind of made sense to me. And then it just kind of, you think you're going to start one place and then you end up someplace totally not where you expected, but that's okay. It's a stream of consciousness. So I sourced majority of this from just magazines or catalogs in the mail. Tried to make it a little, a little strange. Her feet, well, one foot is a dog's paw and another one looks like a pig's foot sticking out of a Jell-O ring. And this was a tough decision, finally adding the sash of Best Mom, just because I don't like to put too much, even though I'm just, I'm still, beginning my practice. I don't like to put too much wording in there because I feel like it leads the viewer someplace that maybe they might not have gone if they hadn't seen that. But for me, after much debate, I decided to put it in, especially because it was in honor of World Collage Day and Mother's Day. And this piece is actually in our current show, the Blue Show. I wanted to create a collage for it, especially because I was going to be giving a talk today on collage, so I thought it would be appropriate. I just started experimenting with different materials in addition to just magazines or photos. In the top, sorry, excuse me for a second. Here we go. Just looking for a laser pointer, and I thought I'd used one before, and I just don't see it. Anyway, yeah, I used some at the top. You can see some paints, paint marks, strokes. I had mixed some acrylic paint with some matte medium just to create some kind of texture sky. At the bottom, I experimented with, using different colored tissue paper. Just seeing how that would look with matte medium. And then I just decided just to use what I had, what catalogs I had on hand, just because, since the pandemic, I haven't been anywhere. I'm not buying magazines. I didn't feel like I had a great source, like an arsenal of source material. So I just forced myself to use what I had and try to come up with some kind of narrative. So that's what I did here. I added some papers that Susan Plogue had mailed to me at the top and on the bottom. You can see there's squares and rectangles of these beautiful papers that I felt added some dimension to the image. And then there's round circular black balls that you see like that almost form a triangle around the globe. That was from wrapping paper. And lastly, top, I decided again, I kind of wanted to tie it all together. So I did use some text that was, I save all my fortunes if I think they might be useful for something someday. So since I included this little spiritual character, I thought it kind of made sense. And it's kind of, it's a weird time and I'm creating what's on my mind and trying to work through things, but it says, it's a tough road. Sorry, no, I can't see because it's a rough road that leads to the heights of greatness. And as a spiritual quote, and then it's from COVID-19 :2020. Okay, so I'm just going to, okay. So right now I'm going to stop sharing my screen because I do have slides that have lists of materials on them, but I'd rather just show you instead of looking at slides and then looking at me. I just feel like the slides will be available after the presentation that you can refer to on a website, but I just rather like do a little hands-on and thought that would make more sense. And if you have any questions along the way, please just jump in. All right, now I'm gonna turn on my, oh, is it on? Sorry, it's on. Oh. Okay, this is my makeshift demo cam. Let's see how well this works. But it's kind of like a bird's eye, but I just want to give you kind of a general idea, kind of see what's happening. So when I create art, I'm a kitchen table artist. So I just have a piece of cardboard that I just put down over my tablecloth. And then for cutting, I found out about this neat like self-healing, oh, thank you. Self-healing cutting board, which is nice. So if you're using something sharp, it doesn't like lift up all these plastic bits. So for my source materials, just have lots of catalogs. I mean, not very exciting anymore, but I have, you know, you could use things like old photographs. I've gotten a bunch of old photographs from places in Philly, like Philly Thrift has like a box and mostly books on Bainbridge. You just rifle through, and they're really cheap. So if you're looking for some vintage images or whatever, like people's families, like, I don't know, anything, you could just go there and find some great source material. There are books available that have lots of great clip art. I found this in my bookshelf. They were really beautiful, and what I would recommend, if you really don't want to damage them, is what you can do is photocopy them, and so that you still have this for later in case you want to do something else with it, or just keep it. Tissue paper is great, wrapping paper. And then I have to thank Carla, who's on this call, for sending me a lot of materials that I just didn't have. Like, she's an amazing collage and mixed media artist, and there's lots of different things that you can use. Like you'd seen earlier, some papers that had just different patterns on them, you know, handmade papers, playing cards. This looks like a dress form, an envelope. Like, look at that beautiful pattern. Like, I would never throw this away. And then this was interesting. This is a beautiful pattern. Reminds me of like that henna tattoo. Anyway, it's on the inside of a tea box. So it just raises your awareness to a lot of the, like, where you can source beautiful materials if you just start looking. And that, you know, think, oh, I can use this for a future project. And then there's other more common materials. Like, this is interesting, like an old check. But I mean, I guess it's, yeah, it says paid, so it's not good anymore, but like just receipts. Book pages, you name it, maps. And then this looks like some type of ledger. You just don't know. And this looks like somebody's notes from a psychology class, which I thought was really cool, and I actually used them for something. So I just say, keep your mind open. And then I think it's a good idea, right? This is what I have right now, to keep everything in some type of binder. I try to keep it categorized. I'm gonna have to get something different now, but you can put things in clear folders. You can categorize them according to subject. That might help make it easier if you're, you know, a little more organized. It's something that you're going to do more often. Stamps, doilies. Okay, so those are examples of papers. Oh, fabric, that's another one. And Susan, can I call on you now? Because I know you've done this. You've made copies copies of your fabrics to use a source material?
Yes, so you want me to share my screen?
Sure.
Okay, this is a piece of paper that has the photocopied patterns of the fabric that you see behind. So I just put, and here it is again. So this is how it came out. So that's the fabric in the background, and then the piece of paper overlapped. You can see it came out a little darker. I think if I put a white piece of paper, no, that wouldn't work. You know what, sometimes the results will surprise you, but the idea just is that anything that you have that has a pattern on it, just stick it in your color photocopier and go for it. And also black and white patterns, if you're lucky enough to have black and white stripes or polka dots, that I think you should photocopy many copies of, because you'll use it a lot.
Thank you. Yeah. And the fabric, is that stuff something that you made, or is that something you purchased? Just curious.
No, that both of those, well, one of those came from Spoon Flower. No, they're things I bought.
Okay. Yeah, nice. Yeah, I never even thought of that, to be honest, until you brought it up. Like, wow, that's a great idea. So I'm going to demonstrate now some cutting techniques or ways to remove your images from the source. This is very basic. Some images of Old Philadelphia and this architecture magazine that I really like. So yeah, I mean, it's just ripping it out of the page. Don't be shy. And sometimes, ripping is the kind of edge you want. I'm going to jump ahead to a couple pairs of special scissors I have that I used to use for scrapbooking many, many years ago. If you want to create a special edge, I have these, these are decal scissors, so I'm going to try to hold it up so it's not, so you can kind of see. But it creates this jagged edge, which is a little more, it's a purposeful kind of edge. And then, there's all kinds of scissors that have these different types of patterns. This is Victorian, so I might not be able to see it as well, but it's kind of like a Victorian edging. Okay. Oh, one other thing. I got this in the mail this week. It was like my pin for my ATM card, and I opened it up, and it's just like kind of, I don't know if you can see it. There we go. You can see a little better, but it has an interesting pattern. It's something you could use for a piece for sure. So I'm going to keep that. So standard scissors are great to use. Different sizes if you have them. I have a smaller pair, and then I have tweezers that I may use. An X-Acto knife is a great tool if you need some really fine work. And then this is something I learned about just recently, and I'm so excited. It's this, actually, let me check my notes here. There's a name for it, sorry. Okay. A ring knife, yeah. So this, has anyone seen a ring knife before? If you have, it's new to me. It has this tiny, tiny little blade here, and you can put it on your finger, so you can use it for getting detailed work. So here's something I got in the mail the other day. It's a thing from, a coupon, basically. So what I'm going to do is cut it out. And I'm going to just, when I cut, I cut a little bit over the edge. It's just so that I don't have any of the extra showing. I'm just trying to be careful that these presents were pretty. This is a nice cardstock, so easy to cut. Let's see if my X-Acto knife will work with this. I'm wondering because it's kind of thick, but probably will. I use judgment when deciding what type of cutting instrument to use, because I know my limitations and I know the limitations of some of these. And yeah, for this type of cardstock, it's not a great idea. Let me try. I don't know if this will work. Like for this ring knife, sorry, there is this tiny little area in here. It's good for areas like that. This doesn't work, and we have to demonstrate on something a little different. And I can tell it's not going to be perfect, but that's okay. This collage doesn't have to be perfect. All right, so I was trying to cut out this little triangle, and it did the trick. Can you see that there's a hole there? Yeah. So that's what that's good for. So I'm just gonna cover all my blades here so I don't cut myself. So then, say you cut out all the images that spoke to you. A lot of times I'll have a lot of things going on at once. I don't know if I'm going to use them all. I also think about how big a piece I want to create. What kind of substrate do I want to use? I first started out with a Bristol board, but then the last piece that I showed you that's in the current show, I used canvas board. And let me just get that. This is 12 by 12. I bought it in a pack of 5 or 6. It was really cheap at Michael's recently. But I wanted something a little stronger, something that would accept paint in all kinds of media. Not knowing how I'd like it. And then, excuse my reach, I bought a pack of these wooden boards. These are 8 by 8, they're a pack of 5. I don't know, it's like 12 bucks maybe. Michael's always has discounts, so always use a coupon. And I wanted to experiment with these, so I have, now I got some pieces together yesterday, and I want to just show you my process when I find things that speak to me. I just play around with how they look, and you know, this is a little, try to turn my canvas. All right, there. So I like combining black and white with color. Having a little bit of, cats are always welcome if they work. And then if I cut out a lot of eyes and mouths. I like that look. It reminds me of Linder Sterling, who I showed earlier, Hannah Hosch, her influence. And then just putting them on, you know, just looking at how, what did I think? There's an ice cream cone. And then I took these off. And then decided that I like that better. And then adding the human features. And then I found some of this tissue paper that I thought, oh, that I could add that in somewhere in the background. And then I stopped, and then, I walk away. I might look for more material. In general, I would say hold off on gluing anything until you're sure. Because something else might come to you. I always sleep on it at least one night. It depends on what I'm doing too, what the piece is for. But yeah, just experiment, have fun, play with a lot of different things, see what speaks to you. So when you are ready to glue, I'm going to show you some different glues, adhesives. Let me see. Okay. So there are a lot of grit adhesives out there. You want to have a cup of water on hand with, I have different size brushes. Paper towel, absolutely. One adhesive I like to use, try to turn this here, it's matte medium. Liquitex makes one. Heard that a lot of artists like Golden brand, which I'm sure is great. This is just the first thing that I was told about, but it's done a great job for me. And I'm gonna do a little gluing on here just to show you what it looks like. Let me just move this, try to get it in the screen. Okay, I use one of these cheap little plastic palettes for my glue. Or you can use one of these. I think they're like some kind of butcher pan. Sorry. These metal things. I've used it for watercolors in the past. They're great. You don't have to, but you can add water to the matte medium. And I thought I had another, sorry. All right, I'm gonna use a smaller brush. Oops, sorry. And on the bottle it says, oh, you can dilute up to 25% of matte medium with water if you want. So I just dip some in there, add some water to it. I'm not very scientific about it. Just trying to get in the screen here. Okay, I know you can't see the matte medium because it's white, but it looks like Elmer's glue basically. And then I just paint the back. People use their fingers too, but I'd rather not. I don't like that feeling. Now I'm going to pretend that I know I had this all worked out. So this is exactly the board I wanted to use. I didn't want to have anything on it, and that this is my collage. So I'm just going to put it down. Like this. And then I usually go back. If there's some edges that are up, I don't want that. I'll just go underneath it. Now, thinking, say if you were creating a collage and you had things that were layering over each other, say this piece here, I purposely wanted it under here. You want to make sure that you don't put glue under here so that when this goes down, then you put the glue, or you might have this go down first, but just make sure you have everything worked out. Now, that being said, a lot of these glues are very forgiving, that they don't dry immediately. So if you forget something, you can lift it up and then tuck the piece under there. So this is something else, this nori paste here. I know a lot of collage artists love this stuff. I bought a jar recently. It's starch based and it's really nice. It has a very interesting texture to it. It's not like the matte medium, which reminds me of a lot like Elmer's glue. It's almost like a gel. And I've only used it a couple times, but it's kind of hard to see in this light, but it's a little gloppy looking, but it's really nice. And it's also very forgiving in that it's movable. If you make a mistake, I guess if it's not too late, you can lift it up. And then another adhesive I use is this Uhu stick, which is great. If I don't feel like going into using the wet adhesives, this is nice. I know there's a Bookmakers PVA glue that a lot of people swear by, and yeah, it's called Hand pH Neutral PVA Adhesive. That's highly recommended. And then other things, this is actually a PVA adhesive too, Elmer's glue. So if you're, in a pinch, I would say go for it. I mean, we're staying at home these days. I'm kind of trying to use what I have in my immediate area. And not go out not go out as much. And then two other, excuse my reach, types of adhesives that also double as like a top coat after you're done. Liquitex makes a gloss medium. It's gloss medium in varnish, which I have used as an adhesive, but I'm going to do a demonstration using it as a varnish as well. And then this I've used in kids' projects, Collage, which the consistency reminds me a lot of this gloss medium. I'm sure the grade is not the same, but it does a nice job. So if you're looking for something on the cheap, I'd say go for it. So yesterday, I was messing around with all the different adhesives and I thought, oh, let me see how they look. How do they compare on wood? So I did an experiment and they all did a great job. You can't tell, like there's no wrinkles here. I compared using one of the pieces of paper I showed you earlier, the nori paste, Uhu stick. I was surprised to see how well that adhered to the wood. Matte medium, the gloss medium and varnish, and the Collage pod. Okay, so if you're interested in painting the wood, I did that already. I mixed acrylic paint with matte medium and just painted over the wood just to have, if I wanted to have a background. And it turned out the 2 coats worked for me. I don't want it to be too solid. It looks kind of solid, but 1 coat, it was too sheer and I could see the brush strokes, which I didn't want. So, so yeah, that's something you could do if you don't want to keep your wood plain, unfinished. Let me see. I want to check something real quick. So now I think I'll experiment with putting down a top coat on this. And what I'm going to do, wait. Okay, try to get this. All right, I have these tubes of acrylic paint here. You can use tubes. I've used like these little, little things like that. Or these are less viscous. And mixed it. What I'm going to do is mix it with this gloss medium. And I've never done this before, so this will be fun. And paint it on top of this. And I'm sure it'll take a little bit to dry, but just to see what it's like. So, yeah. See how that blue is. Just being very on the fly, experimenting. And this is just a plastic palette knife. Sorry, make sure you can see. Paint, I feel like it looks a little gloppy, I don't know. I'm gonna check something. I want to just look at another tube of paint just because I wanted to have a good consistency. This doesn't look bad. All right, that looks better. Here. Okay. All right, so I'm just gonna use my paper towel just to take off any excess water and see what happens. Yeah. So again, this is the gloss medium and varnish. So it should have a sheen to it when it's dry, like a glossy sheen that you can put over your paper collages without paint, or this is just an extra thing I'm doing just to experiment with paint to kind of seal it in using the varnish. But I thought this might be fun. Does anybody have any questions or comments? So, okay. So what I can do, I'll just stop there, but maybe I'll put some plain clear on down here just to see the difference.
I have a question,
Yeah.
Laura. So did you mix the gloss with the acrylic paints in order to make it transparent so you could read the words through the color?
So that was the intention, but I mean, I didn't. Yeah, I mean, does look a bit dense. I mean, you can kind of see the words, and I'm just doing it more for demonstration. But I wanted to add some color to it, just to kind of just do something different. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Okay. Yeah.
You could have used water, for example, to thin it out and make it more transparent, but the gloss gives it the sheen, obviously.
Yeah. No.
It also is transparent.
Yes. Yes.
Used more medium, it would also be more transparent. Oops.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, I literally that's the first time I've ever done it. So, but those are definitely the steps I would do for sure. That you should do. And this is plain gloss medium over paper on wood. So it has to dry. And I know it's like impossible to see in this way. But when it dries, it'll have a sheen to it.
Hey, Laura, I have a question.
Yeah.
For creating collage, do you individual or a collection of cut pieces?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the first part of your question.
Sure. When you're getting started, do you cut pieces for the collage, or do you have a collection of already cut pieces that you build from? Or
I
combination?
I have both. It just depends on the theme, if there's a theme. I do have a lot of things in my folder that I might look at, or if something I come across, something like speaks to me, then I'll go there. I feel like I go back and forth, honestly, when I'm creating, looking at what I have and what I've acquired, if it's something newly acquired, and just seeing what fits together. And then I try to take my time in composing something, some type of, for me, it's always like a narrative, and then making a decision, and then gluing it to some type of substrate. Yeah, and then finishing it. Okay. Is there something? Go ahead.
Sorry, I have a question as well. You kind of spoke to this before, but could you talk a little bit more about your thought process? Like, is there a leading idea when you start a piece? Like, what goes into planning it out, and what is more impromptu?
Yeah, I wish I knew the exact answer to that. So for example, the one I created for World Collage Day most recently, since it was on Mother's Day, and I always feel like May is spring and flowers, and it's beautiful, lots of nature. I wanted to use a lot of flowers in my piece, which I cut out a lot of flowers from different gardening catalogs and just magazines, and kind of, I wasn't sure what to do with them. I didn't know what I was trying to say. So then, actually, I can just go back to the piece just because I'm talking about it. Yeah. Can you see my cursor, or is that just, I can see it? I don't think you guys can see my cursor, but okay. Yeah, I wanted to do something with the flowers. So then the rings, I've had those in my folder for a while. I think they're pretty. And I just decided to do something with them. And then things just evolve, basically. I wanted it kind of related to a Mother's Day theme, like not being, nothing serious, but not making a statement, just trying to be pretty, but it's kind of hard. I don't know, I feel like I'm always making statements somehow. And I thought, okay, the rings, and then including this lady, and, and then, I came across the birds at the upper right, they look like, they remind me of children fighting, and
Excuse me, Laura, you're not sharing your screen at the moment.
oh, so sorry. Just a sec. I apologize. Can you see my screen now?
There you go, yep.
All right, thanks. So this is the image, this piece I was referring to. Just trying to keep it simple and pretty using glittered cardboard and lots of flowers, but somehow some kind of narrative evolved from it. Yeah, I just keep looking until, it's like a visceral feeling when I know I'm done. You try not to overdo it. At least I try not to overdo it with adding too much. And it's important when composing your piece to choose, like, when you're cutting out objects or looking at objects, you want to have some kind of like different sizes that make sense when you're composing it. So like usually there's a main thing, and then there's like smaller parts, like a medium-sized piece, and then a smaller piece. Sometimes, like I think because I'm a photographer, I feel like that has some kind of influence too. A lot of people say, oh, the rule of thirds or whatever. Like, I don't know. You break your rules too. So, yeah. I think sometimes it takes a couple days, sometimes it takes a week to create something, for me anyway. I can see that it's sealed here. It's not totally dry, and it's hard to demonstrate with my screen here. But this gloss medium is nice to seal in paper or whatever you put on your board. Can I demonstrate something else? Any one of my tools, or is there something you want to see again? I go back to my slides then. Oh wait, I have to share my screen. I'm so sorry, I always forget that. Terrible. Okay. All right, can you see my slide?
Yes.
Thank you. Yes, these are some of the things that I talked about. Places like if you're looking to source something, like just look in your house. I get a lot of junk mail. I use a lot of catalogs, using old books, construction paper, felt. I went over some things like the ephemera, a lot of old matchbooks, Cracker Jack prizes, tickets, photos, your own photos or photos that you, like I said, you can buy at the thrift store, cards, wrapping paper. Yeah, and I keep them like in a folder, or you can keep them in a box. Like they have these boxes where you can store materials. They're supposed to be pretty archival if you want to keep things safe. Some ways of cutting or removing images are ripping or tearing, using an X-Acto knife, a ring knife, scissors. Yeah, and I really love this self-healing cutting mat. It comes in different sizes too. I got one on, I think there might be a smaller one, and there's definitely bigger ones. I just used this one for now because I wasn't sure what I would need. Oh, and I forgot to show you, because I didn't really handle any. I can't see my screen right now, but do you see my tweezers?
No.
We're
Okay.
seeing your slide.
I see. Handle your smaller pieces with tweezers. It's a good idea. So that way, when you're if you have glue and if you're painting or putting glue in the back, it's much easier. And plus, then you don't get any glue in your hands. I didn't think I'd ever need tweezers, but I find that they're very helpful. I started using them.
Is there a particular kind of brush that you use for the glue?
That's a good question. No. I have these. Let me hold on a second. Just want to fix. I was going to share my screen. All right. I will show you my brushes. I have a. Sorry. Get out of here. These can be used. These are very general brushes. I just wanted some kind of set that I could use for multi-purpose. It says medium white talcon, watercolored acrylic tempera. I know people. I've also used other brushes that like hair, hair brush. I just have a bunch of different brushes, like not too more expensive brushes, but they don't have to be anything special. I feel like all kinds of sizes on hand. For a bigger job, I might use something like this. I don't know if I'd do anything bigger than that. In terms of paints, I have a lot of these student grade acrylic paints on hand. When I was playing around with those years ago, and these are also acrylic. I got these from Blick. They were like free samples. So these, I'm sure, are student grade as well, which are more fluid than the tube paints for sure. And I find when mixing these with matte medium, it definitely has a thinner coat. So I feel like a lot of it's all experimentation until you figure out what works for you. And then I haven't tried it, but I also have metallic paint. I had this for another project. I mean, there's so many things you could do, which makes it fun. It's all about, a lot of it's fun because you can do trial and error. You could also use watercolors. I have tube watercolors, a bunch of those. These are pretty good. And then there's like cheap ones that kids use in school, the palettes. I feel like the only thing that limits you is your imagination. I'm gonna go back to my slides to see. I just want to make sure I didn't forget something. Okay. I assume you can see my slide.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. These are some of the adhesives that I went over, and things that you should have on hand when you're using them. I really like using matte medium, and the Nori paste seems great. I know other collage artists in this group here have used it as well. It's starch based, which I found out after you open it, you have to keep it in the fridge, so don't forget to do that. And here are some of the types of surfaces you can use. It's not limited to this. One thing I didn't mention, but I've seen done, people have used old book covers because they're very sturdy. So if you take an old book apart that you don't care about, the inside of the book can actually be used as something for a collage piece. Yeah, and like I said, there's many more than are just listed here. These are just ones that I've either used. And watercolor paper too, yeah. That's a good one because it's very absorbs water, or water-based solutions. And then we've already went over the paints, but you can also add other flourishes like markers, crayons, pen or pencil. It's up to you, just depending on what you want to create. You're not limited to just paper or paint. If you want to use paint or stickers, ephemera. Gold leaf sounds like a fun thing to do. I've seen some people experiment with that. I would love to do that at some point. Fabric, or just seriously anything. You can glue objects. It doesn't have to be flat. So these are just 3 little tips I have. Just when creating something, when trying to create a composition, you want to use your editing eye. So like I said, like I'll put things together and then move it around, and then think about it, go back to it later. I usually sleep on it, and then you kind of feel like, I feel like when I know when I'm done. And then use a lot of different types of elements, different sizes in your composition. And using your intuition and having fun is the most important. It's supposed to be a fun activity. And not full of all these rules. So that's the one thing I try to remember every time. I think we should all remember that. Yeah, like I said, try not to overthink it. And just when you see something, just tear it out, cut it out, put it aside. You might go back to it one day. Move things around on your composition, add, subtract. Don't glue too soon, or you could have some regrets, but you don't want to not have fun. You want to have fun. So these are a couple of resources that I recommend, and I want to thank Susan for recommending that book, Creative Collage Techniques, which I have with me. It's just seriously chock full of so much information to get you started. I got it from Amazon, and I think it was like $20, not bad. I'll hold it up in a second. Another resource, which I thought was very helpful, was this website called Creative Bug. I access it through my library, so I think it's a subscription-based service. So I just went to my library. I just went to my online to my library to see if they had any books, but they had this. Now, everything's digital now, so I was able to access these videos where they have instructors teaching all kinds of artistic techniques. So I watched a few of collage, and it was very helpful. Also, or if you're in school, your school might have it available, but I recommend checking it out. YouTube has a lot of good stuff. I mean, I found some interesting, I mean, it's kind of, you might have to wade through it. It just depends. I just try things out, but that's another resource. And then I heard about this publication called Crap Hound Magazine, which I don't think it's any longer it's not being published any longer, but this graphic design artist created it for people to get some kind of inspiration from. And he combines imagery from really random things that is kind of funny, but it seems really cool and it kind of makes sense. I feel like for collage artists, if that's what you're going for, if that appeals to you. So yeah, this issue here I thought was interesting. It's the theme that he incorporated, the different imagery is based on death, phones, and scissors. And then I copied this, I just a snapshot from the Creative Collage Techniques book, just to share different collage terms. I know I get confused because I hear collage, then I wonder, well, what's mixed media? Then I hear about all this other stuff. I thought this was very helpful and just kind of like breaking it down. And I think there's a lot of overlap in what collage is. Like collage can also be mixed media. It doesn't mean they're not mutually exclusive. So I just wanted to share that in case anyone has any questions. I mean, there were things here that I'd never heard of, like brûlage, which is burning of dampened collage materials. I would never think to do that. Like, I guess that's a creative practice in collage. I don't know. And then a fumage, which sounds related, which is exposing dampened collage materials or surface to candle smoke. I guess that may produce some type of effect, but I thought it was very interesting, so I wanted to include that. I'm gonna unshare my screen, and I wanna hold up this book. Yeah, this is the Creative Collage Techniques I was just talking about. It's great. Thank you, Susan, for recommending it. And there's a lot of basics in there, but it tells you how to get started and techniques. It shows you lots of pictures and lots of materials, way more in depth than what I just kind of glossed over today. But if you want to get into it and learn more, I say check it out for sure. And yeah, that's all I have to show right now. Does anybody have any questions or anything they want to share? Or Susan, I don't know if you wanted to talk about the challenge.
Does anyone want to? Oh,
Go ahead. Did somebody have a question?
I was just wondering about what people use for scanning and photocopying, whether anyone uses a phone, for example.
Bob, I'm not sure. I don't think I heard that question very well. Are you saying about using a photocopier?
Yeah, what are people using to scan things in,
Yeah.
copy things?
I have a color copier in the house and also a black and white. I have my color copier that will do black and white. And so I have it, let me put it another way. I have an inkjet and I have a laser. And so what you need to do before, if you have anything valuable, definitely photocopy it. But what I would do is I test it first, because when I use the, you just want to make sure that whatever you put over it isn't going to dissolve the ink from the inkjet or the laser ink. So laser ink is considered archival. That's what they use when you make black prints. That's considered an archival ink. The colors ink are the inkjet, and they're not archival. I use them anyway because I'm coating them with matte medium. And so the thing you want to make sure is that it has to be bone dry, so that the medium that you put over it doesn't make it bleed. And if there's any question, I would spray it with a fixative before I would put the matte medium on it. So that's worked for me. I don't know about, if other people have had experience.
Do you ever want it to bleed?
I have a scanner, a cheap, they're down to about $100 for an 8x12 scanner, and Janice uses a camera.
Yeah, I mean, cameras are interesting because you can actually manipulate the camera to get perspective, right? You don't have to settle for a flat scan, whatever it is.
I don't think I understand, Bob, what you're saying. What do you mean you don't have to settle for a flat? What do you mean?
Yeah, when you put something on a scanner bed, you're scanning it with straight on, with no perspective. But if you're using a camera or a phone, you can approach it at a different angle. You can make your pattern converge. In other words, to just cite an example. I mean, you could get some interesting effects that way if you wanted. Oh, and as far as inkjet ink, yeah, the newer dye inks for inkjet printers are much more archival than they used to be. So if you have a very recent dye printer, those inks are actually actually almost up to the pigment inks in terms of longevity.
You could also, if I'm muted, yes I am.
No, you're good, Roberta.
Oh, so for archival, the matte medium keeps the acid from keeps it so that the acid doesn't destroy the paper. But in terms of color fastness, that's still an issue, but you can end up having a UV, a lot of those, I think Laura was talking about when you put the final coating on, if it has UV in a lot of them, Golden, Liquitech, they have a UV matte and gloss medium to protect the color also. I mean, it's not 100%, but it is. I just wanted to say that archival is only the acid, not the color with matte medium, unless you put UV covering on it. That's all.
That would be a coating in addition to mixing your paint with the gloss medium because of the paint.
Yeah.
Should I talk about the collage challenge then?
Yeah.
All right. So, yeah, so we've been having a lot of fun. Some of us through the mail, sharing art, creating art collectively. And one of the things that happened to me that was so delightful was that Carla Stein sent me a collage challenge. And here it is. Can you see that? Is everybody seeing that?
Yeah.
Okay, so it says, so Carla said, Susan, I hereby challenge you to create 3 collages using some or all of the provided materials. You must select one and send it back. I look forward to seeing the results. So Carla was asking me to create some collages and mail one back to her that she could keep. These are the papers that I found in that envelope. It was a total surprise. It was delightful. I had a really good time with it. So you can see that line of men there, and you can see this cow. And I had an idea formulating that I needed pieces for, and there they were. So I used my photocopier, and I enlarged and reproduced these images so that I could play with them. So this was the first piece that I did. And this one was a COVID-19 piece, the theme being that while the food bank's demand was going up, farmers were destroying food crops. So here I used the little men, I enlarged the cow, I used more men and I set them up. And then I cut up the cow because, you know, that's cuts of meat and had them distributed. And there's the other part of the cow. So anyway, that was the serious piece. But then I had all these extra pieces. And I dug into my own supply of paper, and I knew I had to use Carla's papers. So here's one that is, you know, using some of her papers. And there's another one with cut paper. Those octopus, I already had those cut out. Remembering that if you do cut paper art, then, you know, use it in your collage because putting things together, it makes it a collage. And here's one that is the map theme that Carla gave me a piece of map. So I decided to make something that had to do with time and place. So anyway, there's your example. So what we're suggesting today is that we could do a collage challenge. So there are a couple ways to do it, and we wanted to ask you for your feedback. One is to do exactly what Carla Stein did, which was just stuff in an envelope, bits and pieces of whatever, with your challenge, your throwdown, and mail it off to somebody and surprise them. Or maybe you arrange with another person to trade a challenge. So that's one thing that we could do. Even today, we can collect addresses if people want to do that. Another way that we can do it, Carla and I were talking earlier, that we could do a round robin. And that's something that Carla started with Laura Storck, where she began a collage, mailed it to Laura, and Laura's about to show it.
Mm-hmm.
And in the round robin idea, the first person would start the elements of a collage, mail it to somebody. They would add something, mail it to somebody else, add something, mail it to something else. Eventually it goes back to the person who started the process. And the way that we're thinking about it here for the Plastic Club is that we would then post the results. In fact, we'd love to post any results, however you do a collage challenge. I think it'd really be fun to talk to our people who run the Facebook page and maybe start showing these things. So if you're interested in doing the simple collage challenge, then just put things in an envelope, pick someone and send it to them. You might check with them first to make sure that they're into the idea. I'm into the idea, so send one to me. If you're interested in doing a round robin, that's a more organized thing where one image on the next, then why don't you email me and Laura and Carla and I will organize people into something that makes sense, and we'll write up instructions and get it going. So that's the collage challenge. Is there anybody who's interested in that right now?
Sure.
Yeah, see Roberta is interested.
Sure.
Yeah, anybody else? Yeah, Laura and Tina. Is anybody else? I can't see everybody's faces, so who else? Liz, I'm gonna need your information, and Kim. Okay, I'm gonna put my email. I'm gonna put my email here to everyone. And can you write that down? It's just like my name, Susan.m.Plug. Easy to spell, right? Okay, let me check it and make sure it's correct. Okay, if you could write down my email. And what I'm gonna need to know is your mailing address. And the way that, so this is for the round robin we're talking about, okay? So the way that we're gonna do it is we're going to set it up, probably we're thinking an 8 by 10 base. So it will fit into a 9 by 12 envelope. And then we'll make it super easy to move the thing around. And we'll set up in groups of, depending on how many people, there might be 3 in a group, there might be 4 in a group. So it'll be lots of fun. And tell your friends, because this is something that, you know, we can spread. It's like spread the art in the world and spread the fun. And then the other thing is that keeping in mind that the original piece ends up with the originator. In this round, it's going to end up with me, Laura, and Carla. And we'll post the results. We'll photocopy the final result and mail a photocopy on good cardboard paper and mail that back to you. So everybody will have a copy of the final thing. So in the meantime, when you receive whatever it is that you receive, I would suggest that you take a photograph of it, because if everybody took a photograph of it coming in and going out, you know, there's a story that goes along with each piece. And that would be just so much fun. We could collect that and show that to everybody on our site. And I see Diane has a question.
I'm sorry, I was, you just answered my question, because I had a question about the round robin, but you answered it already.
Any other questions?
Can I just point out to everyone that you can save the chat? You'll save all of today's chat. If you go to the bottom of the chat window and look all the way to the bottom right and click on the 3 dots, you'll have an opportunity to save all of today's chat to your hard drive.
And then I'll add one other thing, which is, can I get a spotlight? How do we do spotlight? Okay, here we go. Okay, so another thing is, another thing to do is, some of us have been doing this really fun postcard project where you send a postcard to somebody, you start an image, and whoever it goes to adds to the image and sends it back to you. So I was doing this with Sarah Nathan, who's with us today, and she actually added a collage element. So this piece, I started off with a watercolor. I don't see that it's in focus. I started with a watercolor background, and Sarah Nathan added the Founding Fathers to it. You know, so she was adding a collage element to it, and then she mailed it back to me. So the rules of this game is that in my challenge to her, this card came back to me, so I get to keep it. So now she's sending me one, and then I'm going to do something to that. And then, wait a minute, is that how it works? If you want, you're going to have to make your own rules. You want to make sure that if you're sending one out, you're clear about who gets to keep it. So in this instance, I sent it out, one thing was added to it, it was sent back to me, I keep it. So, so I initiated it and it came back to me. So Sarah's starting one, she's going to send it to me, I send it back to her, she keeps it. So it's always fun if you take pictures of it in progress. And why? I don't know, because it's fun. That's all I have to say about that.
I can show you Carla's piece that she sent me. I'm gonna try holding it up first. I think this is better than what I can share on my computer. Can you see that?
Mhm.
Now, Carla, you created this, right? And now it's my turn, sorry, to add something to it. And this is just with these beautiful papers on a piece of cardboard. And I can either send it back to Carla or I can send it to somebody else. I haven't figured that out yet. But yeah.
When you do these challenges, one of the things that makes it extra fun for the next person is if you start with a very loose, a loose thing, a loose idea, and don't develop it too much and kind of leave it open. So I think it was Liz earlier who said, you know, do you start your piece with an intention, or do you let intuition lead the way? So this is an example of really intuition. You're having a conversation with the page. So it's very kind of you to send something out that has a very general, open image. And then if you know that you have a person behind you, ahead of you, behind you, to, you know, don't develop it to the nth degree is what I'm saying. Leave a little bit of mystery there for somebody else.
Sounds good. Thumbs up.
So Roberta, you can help us figure out, you know, how we'll show these. I think Facebook is probably a natural way to show them at the end.
Does anybody have any questions or comments or any tips that they'd like to share that wasn't talked about today? I know there's a lot about collage. Just try to talk about the basics.
I'll say one more thing. Hello? So, am I unmuted? Laura was saying about Michael's for the wooden substrate. Michael's is going out of business, but Cheap Joe's has very good prices. I mean, you just keep watching. They have sales on these framed wooden boxes, like wooden platforms, and they call them very cheap frames or something like that. You don't have to get a really fancy one, but they have very, very cheap ones, especially if you're doing collage. Some of you may want to use smaller ones, but they also come in huge, large ones. I mean, I have 20 by 20s, 30s by 30s of these boxes from them, but also, you know, for demo kinds of things, 6 by 6, 4 by 6, 10 by 6, but they come like in sixes, boxes of sixes. So they're very cheap. CheapJoes.com is the website. And, you know, you do enough and it's free shipping and no taxes.
I'd like to share a technique that that I think people will find helpful. Using matte medium is really great because you can use it as the adhesive, and then you can use it as your finish. It's just really, really flexible. But let's say you wanted to use the Cheerios cereal box. Think about how thick that is. So if you wanted to use that and you don't want the thickness, what you would do is you would coat it with the matte medium, let it dry, coat it again. You're going to coat it 5 times, 7 times. If you coat it enough times, you can literally remove all of that paper backing material, all of it, and you're left with what's called a skin. But in order to build up enough matte medium, you have to have many, many layers to make the skin work. I can't remember exactly how many. I'm going to say it's a dozen layers, and you have to let each layer dry. So that's one way to do it. But if you give it just a few coats, you can certainly spritz the back, and then you can sort of pull apart those paper layers, and a lot of the cardboard material will come off of the back just in a strip, you know, and you know that you've used that matte medium, you know, as an adhesive, you know, so it's going to keep the front intact. So anyway, if you haven't tried that, that's a really good.
So is the medium basically acrylic?
What's the question?
Is matte medium acrylic, basically?
Acrylic, yes. It's an acrylic. It's a sealant. It's also, as you saw what Laura was doing with the acrylic paint, is that it's the same. It has the same. I'm at a loss for words. The gel part of it. What do you call that? The base. You know, that there's the pigment and then there's the medium, right? What do you call it?
The polymer.
A polymer. Okay, so the thing is, it's the same stuff. So when you mix it with acrylic, it's really compatible, and you're giving the mixture more substance, so you can get that nice transparency, but you haven't destroyed, you know, that the pigment that's suspended. If you suspend it in water, some weird things can happen to the pigment if you make it too wet. But if you use the acrylic medium, then it stays intact and you get a nice translucent quality. But I have a question about the round robin. So Carl is saying that we should announce a date to sign up for the round robin in case you want to tell your friends that they would have time to join in too. So why don't we say that today is Sunday, so by next Sunday, we won't start it until next Sunday, and that way other people will have a chance to join in. And depending on how many people are there, we'll do in groups of 3 or 4.
Should we say goodbye?
Yeah, I was about to say, if nobody has any comments or questions or anything else that they would like to share, I'm going to thank you for attending. And I also, Roberta, I was just going to ask you, if you don't mind, I know today's the opening for the Blue Show. Do you just mind saying a few words about that?
Yeah.
No?
Yeah, it was an amazing, beautiful, beautiful show. I want to thank Bob Lee in particular for managing the process, setting up. Am I on? I want to thank Bob Lee in particular for setting up the exhibit and the information part of it and correcting issues. And we're going to have a salon on the third Sunday. And I was amazed about the variety of approaches to blue. I mean, I opened it up and it was dazzling. You know, you had some collages, you had some paint, you had some photography, but it truly was a dazzling exhibit. And I can't wait. I'm about to contact a number of the artists to ask them some questions about their work and just preliminarily discuss some things with them. And I can't wait to hear their answers because, like I say, it was just a fabulous example of the creativity of this club and its public. It's not just members, but the public. So hope to see you all at the salon, and thank you all that have participated in it. And thank you again, Bob Lee, and Tina and Laura for all of your help on that. Heavy lifting in this one was Bob Lee, very heavy lifting. Okay, that's all.
So maybe we should have Bob Moore talk about his salon that's coming up in a week, and also about Tuesday night.
Yes, let me highlight myself. two things. There's the regular Tuesday share, where people just come on and show what they're working on now, the progress, many finished works. There's some great work. And then the following Sunday, I'm going to be teaching a Zoom class on, this is going to be an unfamiliar phrase, style transfer filters. These are, this is because it's a new technology. It was only invented 10 years ago. It's where you take the features of one picture and apply them to another. Let's see if I can dig up an example to show you. For instance, let's see. I'm sorry, I wasn't really prepared for this. But this is the, I hope you're seeing, here's a kind of a weird Picasso. Here's a very American homey thing scene. And this is the result of combining the two. Photographers find it useful. And it's just a new technology that I'll be introducing on Sunday, 1 to 2:30. And I'm also gonna Laura was kind enough to send me one of her collages. So I'm gonna run a little bit of that technology on her blues collage. So that's Tuesday, digital sharing. Next Sunday at 1, style transfer programs.
Okay, and then we have some other things coming down the pipeline that we don't have dates for yet, but you know, Rick and Bob have been doing these really fun salons where they take us to a museum, a virtual museum, and talk about art. And so they're working on their next installation. We haven't decided on the date yet. And Diane, who's here with us right now, is generous enough to offer a program that's about kitchen table printing. And she's calling it No Press, No Problem. So Diane, do you want to say a word about that? And we don't have a date for that yet, but we're working on it right now.
Hi. What we're going to do is focus on ways to print from things you have around your house. It could be junk, it could be fruits and vegetables, and you can get some really wonderful results. And it's actually, this ties in nicely with what Laura's talking about today, because it's a way to make your own decorative papers. You can also make utilitarian objects out of the finished products. So I hope you'll join me. It's going to be more of a demonstration than a workshop. And we're going to work out the details of that. And I look forward to doing it. Thanks.
I think that's it for Plastic Club announcements, Laura.
All right, well, thanks again for everybody. And I hope to see some of you in the, if not all of you, in the collage challenges that we have coming up. And I hope to see some collages if this inspired you in some way. And have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you, Laura.
Thanks, this was fabulous.
Thank you so much.